As you may or may not know, Venerable Children this morning had an opportunity to go within a very small interfaith group to meet with our Republican representative from our district. It was a private, supposedly a private meeting, where, they were, well, Venerable Simke could tell the whole story, but that'll take, we'll do that later. Anyway, the idea was to be able to share with him the ethical concerns from different faith perspectives. And so Venerable Children agreed to go as the highest ranking Buddhist, I think, in the neighborhood. And the bishop, the Episcopal bishop of our region was there, and then a representative of a Lutheran minister who I think was representing the Lutheran bishop, and then Jen, our friend Jen Haywood, who's a United Church of Christ minister who's been organizing this interfaith thing to try to speak to the ethical and spiritual issues around, picking up people off the street without due process, nice way of saying it, and things like that, cutting support for people who can't afford medical care, and so forth. So anyway, she said yesterday when she called me, she said, if I'm not back, can you do the talk? And I said, sure. So I prepared a little, expecting fully that she would be back. And then saw her and went, oh, good, she'll do it. And then she's not. So I do have ideas about what I want us to cover today. But yeah, so anyway, you got me. Which may be a chance for you to ask some questions that you might not want to ask of Venerable Children. So, and we have lots of resources besides me in the room. So we'll start with a modified version of the prayers. Is this marking an important place? Maybe. We'll start with a modified version of the prayers like we do in the morning when we're doing the meditations. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That'll work just fine. So let's take a moment, and I will do it for myself too, to bring ourselves present to the space, to our body, to calm the mind a bit. To visualize the Buddha representing the three jewels or a full refuge field in the space in front of you. Imagine ourselves surrounded by all living beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Tayata mune mune maha mune soha. 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 Take a moment to take your attention to the breath. Setting aside all the worries and activities of the morning and any thoughts of the future. Bring yourself here now. And just reflect for a moment what kind of benefit it brings that you are here in this room with these people, here to share about monastic life. What kind of benefit does that bring to you? And how will that ripple out to others? And expand that thought to imagine as we continue to water the seeds of our own potential for full awakening. And that's exactly what we're doing here today and in this program and in our practice. See if you can imagine far, far, far in every direction. how what we're doing right now with the virtuous mind has the potential to be of liberating a force for every living being. And so let's engage together in this class with confidence in our own potential and with a big, broad bodhicitta mind, recognizing the potential in all others, treasuring our own present opportunity, and clearly setting our sights on full awakening so that someday we will be the very refuge that we've just taken for all beings. Think about that. So what I wanted to explore and talk about is why would we ordain? Why? What's the point? To spend some time with that from a few different angles. And I wanted to start out with getting from you what you think. Why? I think I'm going to ask the back row to not engage in this right now. But the first couple of rows, and maybe even the ones in red, hold back a minute. Why would a person ordain? I want to hear what you think. Why would you ordain? Why would a person ordain? And my handwriting is terrible, so you just have to deal with that. Yes, Ashley.
I think one of the reasons is suffering, and you realize that your suffering is shared by all sentient beings, and for many of us, there's a deep love and compassion that arises, sometimes naturally, sometimes over time, and as that grows, it becomes unthinkable not to ordain.
So like recognition of suffering and a shared wish to overcome it, something like that?
Yes.
Can I say that? What's another reason? Why would you ordain? Madeline?
The opportunity to practice and train in the Dharma full time and to work to support the Dharma full time.
Mm-hmm. Living a life of no harm. Committing to a life of no harm. Anything else? Sydney, I think you had your hand up first.
Being able to just like clean and clearly live the Dharma.
Mm-hmm. Live the Dharma clean and clear.
To keep the Dharma in the world.
Daniel?
To be a reference point and a beacon of hope for others.
Reference point and a beacon of hope. Sunny, yeah.
I would say ordination is the way you collect merits faster. It's not for your own good, it's for the benefit of others.
Collect merit faster for the benefit of others. Yeah. Yeah. Other reasons.
Just to, but to not waste time. You kind of just don't want to waste time anymore, and you have this the opportunity to be in a place where it's conducive to your practice, and just get guidance very frequently.
Yeah, not waste time. Do your practice. Jack, did you have your hand sort of waving?
I guess, admit to a sense of spiritual urgency for the alleviation of suffering for yourself and others.
Spiritual urgency. I like that phrase.
Because it's cool.
Okay. Back row? Yeah.
Because nothing else has any meaning.
Nothing else has any meaning.
Just fleeting pleasures that turn to frustration.
Yeah.
If the Buddha did it, it's got to have some importance. He knew what he was doing.
Buddha knew what he was doing. If Buddha did it, it's got to be good.
This goes along with a lot of what other people have said, but it's just a focused and conducive way to actualize bodhicitta and the good qualities that are needed to be able to benefit others.
The principal reason to take ordination as a monastic is to attain liberation. That's really the sole, most important first step to attain liberation. All of these reasons are superb. All of these reasons are good. But they're all based on this fundamental reason is to attain liberation. So having recognized the suffering, having some confidence that we can get out of suffering, then pursuing liberation is the motivation, the main principal purpose. And then in the Mahayana tradition, you can also tag on and to do it for all living beings. Yeah. When you go for the full ordination interview in Taiwan, when they do the entrance interview, that's the answer they're looking for. Why are you here? Why are you ordaining? To attain liberation. And then so I can be of benefit to living beings. And that is really important to look at as the basis for why we're doing this, because all of the other reasons imply it. But if we're holding liberation as the goal, then everything that comes from holding that goal is like helps rocket fuel the trip that we are taking. So with that then comes a deep immersion in the Buddhist worldview, a deep immersion in practicing the Four Truths, as Venerable Thubten was talking about earlier. Practicing the Four Truths where the Buddha said, this is the nature of suffering. There is a cause of this. You can get out of it. Here's how you do it. We have to have the confidence that we can be freed of it in order to make that our goal. And in order to have the confidence that we can be relieved of our suffering and make that our goal, then we need to be really deeply rooted in the disadvantages of cyclic existence, super deeply rooted in the essential nature of ethical conduct, which is the foundation of the three higher trainings. That's where, as a monastic, we make our merit. That's where we get the rocket fuel, the opportunity to actually live in precepts day in, day and day out. We also then have to really cultivate our confidence in rebirth. That it's not going to happen in one life, and really have this sense that we can go forward life after life after life to build on this. And in order to be sure that we're going to get those future lives in order to build on it. Also deepen on our understanding of the value of ethical conduct, restraining from harm, and so forth. So all these things kind of build on each other and grow each other as we go. And it comes from really having that I want to be awakened. I want to be liberated, and I want to be fully awakened. And then, depending on your tradition, and I want to take everybody else with me too. Right? Bing, bing, bing. So it's interesting when we, Yangchen Rinpoche was here just a few months ago. Last year. Whoa, Yangchen Rinpoche was here last year. And we had a private Sangha session with him, and somebody asked him, because we hear this, does it make sense for there to be monastics in this day and age? I mean, it is so ancient, what does it mean? And I want to talk about that quite a bit, actually, this afternoon. But somebody asked him, does it matter? I mean, does it make sense to still be a monastic these days? Because he's a young tulku, reincarnated lama, living in Dharamsala. And there's lots of opportunities for young tulkus to not be monastics and to go off and make a fortune in America or something. And he paused for a minute and he said, well, it depends. And I was surprised. I had the same thing, really. He said, it depends. He said, if you are only thinking of this life, then actually, no, it does not make much sense to be a monastic. If you are thinking of future lives, it totally makes sense to be a monastic. And then I wrote in my notes, it's the only thing that makes sense is to be a monastic if we're thinking of our future lives. This morning we got a teaching from Geshe Topke, who, I'm sorry you guys weren't there, but he said something this morning. Don't spit on the thing, your finger. He said something this morning that I thought, oh, this is a perfect thing for this class. He said, have some certainty that you will not be reborn in the lower realms. That's our first job. I mean, we may want to be awakened. We may think to know that we want to be liberated, but we have to be sure that we're going to be able to have the same kind of circumstances in the next life, and the next life, and the next life, and the next life that we happen to have right now in order to pull that off. So he said, have some certainty that you will not be reborn in the lower realms. Why? Engage in actions that ensure higher rebirth in the future lifetime. And for that reason, you need to reflect on the causes and conditions that give rise to higher rebirth. So that's another thing we think about in being a monastic. What are the causes for a fortunate rebirth? Number one, ethical conduct. Ethical conduct is the basic reason for being able to get a human rebirth. We all have one. We all can rejoice that we had the merit and what ripened in our past, however we died before, we ripened some seed of foundational ethical conduct that gave us this human body and this human life. Right? To have a precious human rebirth, one where we can not just be human, because there are a ton of humans on this planet and many other planets too, but they don't all have a precious human rebirth. Why? A precious human rebirth is about having met the Dharma and having the conducive conditions in order to be able to practice the Dharma. So the second way that is done is by first making strong and fervent prayers or dedications in your life now to have a precious human rebirth that helps direct the mind in that direction. And so making those kinds of aspirations, those kinds of prayers, if the word is okay for you, help keep us on track for what we're doing and why. Why do we want another precious human rebirth? So we can keep practicing the Dharma, right? And then the third one is to practice the six perfections, the far-reaching attitudes. That's where my mouth got stuck. The six perfections. So practicing generosity, ethical conduct, which we're talking about here, fortitude or patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. So practicing these 6 as a part of our practice also helps to lead us towards the best conditions for being able to get another precious human rebirth. So that we can do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Because, in the Buddha's time, he gave those talks. Sometimes he would just give a talk one time, and people would have stream entry realizations. They would realize emptiness immediately. Maybe there are still people around who have the karma for that. I don't know. but I don't. I haven't met anybody that has at least confessed to that. But what he did say today, he said, this is what Geshe Topke said today. Refrain from the 10 non-virtuous actions. That's our basis for our Dharma practice, right? No killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and so forth. Living an intentional ethical life defined by refraining from negative actions. Then reflect on the middle scope and meditate on renunciation, emptiness, and so forth. Just as Venerable Seppel referenced today, meditating on the disadvantages of cyclic existence again and again and again and again. And we're going to talk about those today if there's time. Because it's really important. It is so hard to disconnect from the kind of luxury life we live, folks. I mean, let's look around the room and see. We are extremely fortunate in a material way. Beyond the beyond. If we look anywhere else around the world, with the possible exception of Scandinavia, we have everything. Like that. Every sense pleasure we want. And now you can get it around the clock. I remember when 7-Eleven actually closed at 11. No more. Any time of the day or night. Click, get what you want. Click, get what you want. What's that called? That delivery service now where my niece works for it. No. DoorDash. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, she works for DoorDash. Like small towns. People will run to you what you want if you're willing to pay for it. All you have to do is have the money to pay for it. It's astonishing. It's hard to disconnect from that, even though you can look at it and go, oh my God. And then you pick up the phone and order DoorDash. This is so weird. Here, try it. Yeah. So to think about again and again and again, what are the disadvantages of that? How does that get in the way of my spiritual aspiration to become liberated, to become fully awakened, to actually relieve the suffering of all beings? Why is that a problem? It's not a problem, but it can be an obstacle, right? It can be an obstacle. So when he talks about this, then Geshe Topke says, do this on a daily basis, on a sustained basis. The trick is to do this every day, sustained, 3 times. It is never the case that realization happens suddenly. We think you have a few days of serious practice and expect a sudden transformation of inner realization. This is never the case. Second time he said that. We may have insights into profound topics, but our imprints from past lives, our habitual negative tendencies are overwhelming. These far outweigh our positive pot of virtuous actions. So sustained daily practice, only then can we overpower our negative tendencies with virtuous ones. And then he said again, you have to have sustained effort to assure a fortunate rebirth. So if we look at it like that, often the question, and you may have had it already here, you may have it come up, why can't I do that as a layperson? And lay people do. There are fantastic lay practitioners. There's no two ways about it. And some of you probably are or may well be. And where's our list? Can you pop that back up? Oh, that's right. We can just, it doesn't matter what order they're in because they're all kind of on the same mark. If we practice and support Dharma full time, then we're doing exactly what Geshe Topke prescribed. If we're committing to a life of no harm, we're doing exactly what Geshe Topke prescribed. If we're living the Dharma clean and clear, we're doing what he prescribed. Keep the Dharma in the world. Yes, that's another topic we'll come to. The reference point and beacon of hope for others. We're doing, what he said, collecting merit for the benefit of others. Spiritual urgency, not wasting time, receiving guidance, nothing else has meaning. The Buddha knew what he was doing. All of that comes under this daily persevering in the pursuit of liberation and awakening. Whereas, no matter how good a Dharma practitioner you are at home, we still have to go to the grocery store. We still have to get fed. If you're an introvert, it might work. We have a very dear friend who is a kind of a Dharma sister of my era, who is really a lone yogi. Now that she's retired, she lives alone, she does retreats, she's amazing. I am an extrovert. I need people. So if you're living as a layperson out there, you can have Dharma friends, but you also have to, go to the family gathering. You also have to go to the neighborhood gathering because, you want to be on good terms with your neighbors. You also have to go to, that reunion from the group that I worked with you have to go to that thing too. We have all these social connections that are essential actually to make our life livable. Every one of them, in their own way, takes us from practice. You go see movies that you don't really want to see as a Dharma practitioner, but your best friend needs help, needs a little support. You're going to go help her out. We don't do that as monastics, and nobody asks us to because they don't expect it. It's so liberating. It's very liberating. I tried. I really, really tried. In fact, I told Venerable Children my aspiration was to be the very best lay Dharma practitioner I could be and help her with the Abbey. And all these things definitely came up. I still had to work. I had to work. I was self-employed. Okay, I'm self-employed. I can set my own schedule. I can do retreat. I can do that. But when you are on retreat, you do not make a dime when you are self-employed. It's kind of risky. So all these, and then there's the family, and then there's your parents. They want you, they need you. They still need you when you're a monastic, but you have a different way of relating to them. It's not as easy to say, Mom, I really need to go do my meditation now, when you're just looking like you did yesterday. I know when I started to visit my mother, she was incredibly, well, that's a whole long story about how she adapted to this change in me. But once I was there, robes on, shaved head, she made the space. When I said to her, Mom, I want to go do my practice this morning, I'll be out in a couple of hours. No problem. That kind of boundary was easy to draw. So there are really advantages in that way. But the point here is that why are we doing this? We're doing this because we are so convinced in the Dharma and where it will lead, that we determine for our own self that this is how I want to spend my life. Yes, I can also be a very good lay practitioner. I'm not dissing that. And if there's nothing else to do, nothing better to do, whatever that was, then there's nothing better to do. There's nothing else to do. So it has to be part of our thinking. So I think that's also why it's a process and why it's really encouraged to think about this for a long time. We have to practice. We have to really sit with the meditations and do them over and over and over until we are convinced that the Buddhist path is the path and the way we want to spend this life. And convinced that the way that we want to get a fortunate rebirth, we want to get a precious human rebirth, and we're convinced that this is the best way to ensure that. There's still no guarantee, just to say. It's not like you get ordained and now you know it's a safe case that you're going to be reborn in a fortunate situation. It's not that easy. But it does help a whole lot. So that's one thing to pay attention to. So that's for ourselves individually. The other thing to know is, especially again in the West, well, a few things. There's a movement towards this wish for an American Buddhism. I've heard it a lot. I see it in the Buddhist magazines, and I hear it from people from time to time that, we can let go of some of the old stuff from the past, kind of blend together all the different sorts of schools that have come to this country and create our, not Tibetan Buddhism, not Chinese Buddhism, we'll have American Buddhism. Personally, I think it's a real danger because we are, and I think it's one of the things that people say when they're denigrating monastic life. It's like old-fashioned, it's rooted in something that's so old, like why do you keep doing it this way? Historically, it has taken 200 or 300 years for Buddhism to really take root in a country where it has spread. It has not been here any 200 or 300 years yet. And also historically, it is the monastics that make it stick. It is the presence of a monastic community practicing the Vinaya, practicing the full 3 baskets that the Buddha gave, 3 baskets of teachings, Sutra, Vinaya, and the Abhidharma. And then living it, not just studying it, not just going to the Dharma Center once a week, not doing 2 retreats once a year, but actually living it as a way of life, embodying that practice. And that's what roots it in a country. It's what roots it in a space. So to be able to, whoever that was about perpetuating the Dharma, to be able to contribute to the perpetuating of the Dharma so that it will go into the future, requires that there are monastics in that culture who are doing that. So again, we cannot do it without the lay supporters. It's not done in isolation. There's a role for everybody. And we also need the monastic community to keep that going. Something else that just went through my mind about that. Oh, so my earliest education was I was in the theater program, and I was studying with our professor was trained in the Stanislavski method. Yeah. I loved it. But the catchword, the slogan was, "My body is my instrument." Right? So what that means from an actor's point of view, for a musician, your cello is your interest, or your whatever, your flute or whatever is your instrument. That's the way you express yourself in the world. For an artist, the canvas or the particular medium, the oils are my instrument, right? But for an actor, your whole being, your whole self is your instrument. Everything that comes out of you in that performance, you need everything. You need the whole thing. And I think about Dharma practice that way a lot. I often think about that. It is a full body experience. Our body is our instrument. We, as a monastic, we have the opportunity to live it. Day and night, unceasingly, we have the opportunity to. And when we live in a monastery, we have the particular opportunity to just look around. Where else can you live where you can have the imprint of holy beings everywhere you look, even in the dining room? You can walk up the stairs and do a few little Omarapatsanities as you pass Manjushri. You can come and pass the Medicine Buddha Tanka, Tayatao, Bekkensei, 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 runs a Soha 3 times. you can do it. You can find little ways to remind yourself of the Dharma constantly. And that's why the whole monastery is built. It's built to do that. That's why Venerable Children is having us put holy objects in that Buddha hall just as fast as people can get them over there and get them up, to create a very special kind of place that is made of the Dharma, for the people to practice the Dharma. Even people who will never, ever, ever come in here again, the work people, somebody who comes and delivers the mail and has to bring it inside, they will get a little imprint of the Buddha. Right? So the monastery itself also has a very special place in the process of being a monastic. So that's also something I'm sure Venerable Children will talk about a whole lot. But there is there's the I myself, the person, the human being. How do I want to live my life? What do I want to use this precious human life opportunity for? And if I have the aspiration to be, having recognized the suffering of cyclic, the dukkha of cyclic existence, had the aspiration to get out, have the aspiration to take others out if I can, if that's really the goal, then we have to look at, so what am I doing with my life? What else can I do? There is healing work to be done, no question about it. That is fine. Every time we go to work, no matter what your job is, as long as you're not making armaments to bomb someplace else, we can cultivate a motivation that makes our work meaningful and beneficial for others. Because our work is beneficial for others. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have a job. I mean, that's why they make jobs, to be of benefit to others in some way or another. So again, there's plenty of ways to do that in lay life. We just need to think about how we want to do it. How we want to do it, to the extent we want to do it, to the depth that we want to do it. And if our conditions are right for this life, that's part of this exploring monastic life too. Do I have the conditions in life that make this reasonable for me? That's something we have to assess. So then the other thing that's an interesting aspect for being a monastic in the West is that there are not very many monasteries to go live in. There are some. And some people who are monastics, who are Western monastics, go to Asia and find it very comfortable. Either to go, if you speak Chinese, you get the Chinese temples. I know people who've gone there and done very well. We now have friends who are in Tibetan monasteries, nunneries particularly, and also monasteries. One of our former residents is in the Geshe program in South India. They have the language, they're doing well, but it is hard. It's really difficult culturally for people to go adapt and stay there. Otherwise, monastics are kind of living in Dharma centers, running Dharma centers, living on their own. There's lots of different locations in which monastics may function that have some Dharma access, but very, very few opportunities to live in community and really train. So this too is something that's important if we're going to be establishing the Dharma in the West, to be able to contribute to the deepening of it here, to be able to associate with monasteries that can carry it forward. So that's a whole other topic that Venerable Children will talk about. So let me stop here for a moment and see if you have any questions or thoughts, because I really want to talk about the disadvantage of cyclic existence just a bit. Questions, thoughts, comments? Yeah.
So, Venerable, something that I've thought about a lot in considering monastic life is there's so many reasons that I can come up with that would be conducive, reasons for ordaining, and many of them are on this list. But every time I ask myself, I was like, but why do I need to ordain to do that? I came up with I can do a lot of those things not ordained. Mm-hmm. But if I ask another question, could I do that without monastics in the world? Mm-hmm. The answer is no. I could not have a rich and rewarding spiritual practice without the inspiration, support, and encouragement of monastics who maintain the Dharma and teach it to others. And so for that reason, that makes it much more compelling to me to become a monastic myself, because I see how necessary it is, not just for my own practice to develop even quicker, but to help others in their practice, because it is a condition that is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, that's really true. I'll read the whole thing, and I won't interrupt it. Have some certainty that you will not be reborn in the lower realms. Engage in actions that ensure higher rebirth in future lifetimes. For that, you need to reflect on the causes and conditions that give rise to higher rebirth. Refrain from 10 non-virtuous actions. Are we constantly refraining from killing, stealing, and so forth? Living an intentional ethical life defined by refraining from negative actions. Then reflect on the middle scope, meditation on renunciation and emptiness and so forth. I didn't read that part. Do it on a daily basis, on a sustained basis. The trick is to do it every day and sustained. It's never the case that realizations happen suddenly. We think you have a few days of serious practice and expect a sudden transformation of inner realization. This is never the case. We may have insights into profound topics, but our imprints from past lives, our habitual negative tendencies, are overwhelming. These far outweigh our positive pot of virtuous actions. So sustained daily practice. Only then can we overpower our negative tendencies with virtuous ones. You have to have sustained effort to assure a fortunate rebirth. The other piece about this being, my body is my instrument, about being a lived practice, I think, especially people who have been ordained for a long while, I think this was a little bit harder to understand until you have lived it. In fact, I'll tell a story. When I went for my full ordination with Venerable Chigme, I had been ordained 3 years, I think, and I had been studying with Venerable for 12, 15, almost 15 years. We stayed with a nun who, Venerable Thubten Chonyi, who was very instrumental in my early Dharma life. Anyway, we stayed at her temple, and some point she was talking to me about something, and she just made the comment, well, you're still young in the practice, and so and so and so and so and so. I don't even know what we were talking about, but I remember her saying, you are young in the practice, and inside I'm going, I am not. I've been doing this for 15 years. What do you mean I'm young in the practice? Well, now I know exactly what she meant. Because with just 3 years of ordination, I was very, very young in the practice. And now with 17, 18 years of ordination, I am very young in the practice. What I get is that we don't learn the Dharma, and you already know this, but I'm going to say it again, because we have to say it every day almost. We don't learn the Dharma like we learn geometry or geography or whatever your topic was. That is not how we learn the Dharma. There's a lot of data, and especially in the Gelugpa tradition, there's a lot of detailed philosophical stuff, and you can memorize tables, and you have to learn all this stuff because you see how the logic makes sense. But holding it up here is not where the Dharma lives. It's got to be a full body practice. And that takes time. That takes practicing it for years and years and years and years and years and years. And that's why we can look at someone like Venerable Chödrön or Venerable Sangye Kadro, who have been ordained for 50 years, and see the difference. Right? You can see what 50 years of practice as an ordained being what kind of effect that has on a person and how they move in the world and how they think and how they everything. They weren't like that at the beginning. And I would say one of the things that is the richest gift for me of having known Venerable Children for almost 30 years, well, for 30 years, is how I've watched her change and grow and mature and move into an abbess and into this kind of world leader. She wasn't always, it's not that the qualities weren't there, but the presence of who she is part of the inspiration I have for continuing to practice. I'm way behind. I will not live long enough to catch up. So you can't be competitive with your teacher. But that's also an inspiration to be able to embody and live it over the long haul. Yeah. You agree? Yeah. All right. Why did I divert to that? What was I going for? All right. Any other questions before we get to that? Yeah.
When in the Dharma I say we do this for the benefit of all the sentient beings, I don't understand. I understand like the benefit of the community, the benefit of the town, the benefit of the people that might come online, but how is it for all sentient beings? Like for people that don't come in contact with me necessarily, or it's because if I attain awakening, I will be of great inspiration, like the Buddha. But there are some arhants that nobody knows that they are arhants. And,
yeah.
So I think I am just like suspicious. Like, what is this thing
What is
about?
this? Yeah.
For the benefit of all sentient beings, like this punchline that is like, okay, get motivated. It's for the benefit of all sentient beings. I think might have to do with equanimity. It's like it's for the benefit of all. It's not like, oh, I prefer this or that. That's the only solution I have found to that phrase. But maybe there is more.
Yeah, there is more. There is more, but it's a really good point. And it is the point between the Theravada practice and the fundamental vehicle practice and the Mahayana or great vehicle or universal vehicle practice. And that is that if we're actually aiming for full awakening, which is different from being an arhat, right? So the arhats have complete liberation, have eliminated all afflictives, all the karmic seeds. They still have the traces, however, just a little bit of trace of those that are there that prevents them from omniscience, right? They don't have the motivation to actually be able to do the extra work and create the extra merit and take over the extra time in order to completely purify of mind of all traces and all stains of the afflictions of karma, right? But we all have the potential to do that, just as we all have the potential to become liberated. So from the Mahayana perspective, we start at the very beginning with this aspiration, not just to free ourselves, but to do so that we become Buddha. And to become Buddha means that we eliminate all of those things. And we need a tremendous amount of love, compassion, and to drive the merit making to make that happen. So from the very beginning, as long as we have the aspiration to be of benefit to all sentient beings, even that aspiration has some positive oomph and carries us. And we make the habit. It's like creating habits in the mind. I will be of benefit to every being. I will be of benefit to every being. And we have multiple things where we're not. All day long, we're not. I want you to get out of the way before I get to the tea counter. I want you not to eat that last piece of chocolate. I mean, all the things that come up in us where we're totally self-centered, we can watch them. But we're holding in mind, I want to be of benefit to every single being. That's my driving force. That's the habit I want to make in my mind. And it's built quite logically on the idea of dependent arising. Cause and effect. We're creating the cause over and over and over to have that motivation until it is spontaneous. We don't have to think about it anymore. It becomes just the way we wake up in the morning as a way of life. When it becomes that big, then we're much faster moving along the path. And by the time we're a Buddha, and we have very extensive teachings on how the mind of the Buddha functions in ways that, of course, we can't comprehend because who knows really except the Buddha himself, herself. But a Buddha, once they become fully omniscient and awakened, a Buddha's response to the world doesn't even require thought. There's no thought. The habit is so deeply entrenched that it is spontaneous action for the benefit of every single being around the clock, all the time. And it is only our karma that prevents us from actually having access to that. So when we're talking about benefiting all sentient beings, it is at this moment nothing but an aspiration, of course. I'm lucky if I can benefit you today. No, I hope so, but who knows? But our aspiration and our wish and the expansion of our mind is taking us to the habits that habit overcomes our self-centered habit eventually if we work it. And that's what we're going for. So when we also need a really, really big mind to even be on this path. If we're going to go for the full meal deal of wanting to benefit all beings, we have to have a very big mind. So imagining that we're surrounded by all living beings, imagining that we're leading living beings even when we're just doing our prayers and our practices, these are the kinds of things that plant the seeds that become a habit so that, who knows, next life we wake up and maybe we're a step further in just being able to do it more automatically. Because we talk about this often, His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says, it's probably a scriptural quote, that we are so conditioned by our afflictions that, doing negative actions is just like rolling a boulder down the hill. In fact, he says it's like a stream, a mountain stream, rushing down the hill. Negative actions, all day long. So that working against even that stream takes a lot of effort. Like rolling a boulder up the hill is the other analogy. But the more we roll that boulder up, the balance will shift. It already does. You probably can already see this in your life from practicing the Dharma, right? It may be small, but if we didn't see some result, we wouldn't keep doing it, right? We know that it shifts. And if we have the confidence in the law of cause and effect, dependent arising, we keep creating these causes, that shift will happen. And so that's where we're going for all sentient beings. So it's not it's not an empty kind of fantasy. And it's not a slogan per se. Not just a slogan. Yeah. But it is planting seeds again and again and again. That's my intention. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do with this life. It's what I'm going to do with the next life. It's what I'm going to do with the next life. It's what I'm going to do with the next life until I can really, really, really do it. And then I don't have to think it. I just do. That's what we're going for. Yeah. And after a while, it's like, well, what else is there? How else would you use a life? I don't know. There are people out doing amazing healing work in the world. That's a way to use a life too. But that doesn't mean that you can't keep benefiting. I mean, that motivation isn't a part of that. If that motivation is what is propelling you to be a doctor, if that motivation is what is propelling you to be a good mechanic, we're still creating those seeds. We're still going forward with it. It's just as a monastic, we have it all the time. We have the opportunity all the time. Hello, give me a break, right? We can take it or we can forget to take it. It's up to us, one way or the other. Yeah. This goes to 4, right? Have you gotten in the leading the meditations? I'm pretty sure you haven't. The disadvantages of cyclic existence? No. I want to talk about those just a little bit because they are extremely, extremely important to think on. And there's 2 different versions. There's the eight disadvantages of cyclic existence for humans, and then there's 6 for cyclic existence in general. So I'll do the 6 first because it's easier to remember. But especially when we're thinking, some people often ask, what do you give up when you become a monastic? And in a way, you can say the things you give up, your hair, for one thing. But in a way, by the time I think a person has come to the point where they have made the decision, it's really not about giving up anything anymore. Having recognized the dukkha in which we live, and having recognized the unsatisfactory nature of even the things that I most cherish that bring pleasure or happiness, you're ready to make the step when it no longer feels like giving up anything. It's just time to get on with this other thing, right? But in order to do that, we have to know what's the alternative. But let's start with this. Here's a nice quote that Venerable Children has at the beginning of this in her book on the guided meditations. When there is no end at all to this ocean of suffering, why are you childish people not afraid of drowning in it? Aryadeva in the 400. So the first disadvantage is that there is no stability anywhere. No security, no certainty in all of cyclic existence. It's based on the fact that everything is impermanent, even though we cling to permanence. Change. Every single condition, phenomenon, persons, things, situations, careers, families, planets, changing constantly. Constant. All in the world we want is to just sit down and have something not change for a while, right? Just a stable moment. There's no such thing. Constant. Even we think there's this sense of stability and solid, and I finally got my life together, and I finally got my house, and I finally got my job, and I finally have enough saved, and I finally have the right partner, and I finally have the right this, and I finally right this, and then the toilet's going to plug, the house will burn down, you'll lose your job, the partner will leave you. It just goes just like that. And those are the big gross ones. There's no stability anywhere. And yet, one of the deepest things that the Buddha described in the First Noble Truth is that one of the things is that we cling to that which is in constant change to be permanent. We expect it to be permanent. We expect our car not to break. We expect our mother not to die. We expect nobody to die. We're always shocked when people die, ourselves included, I imagine. I haven't gotten there yet, but no matter how much I've tried to prepare for it, I think I will probably be shocked. Now? Wait a minute. That's not the reaction I want to have, but it's possible. So when we think that that's the way, that is the constant change, it's not to depress us. It's to actually get real about what's real. And then look at what are the things we're clinging to. Look at how lasting is that career that I think is so important. Or look how is that relationship that I think is so important. All it means is get real about it. It doesn't mean you have to give it up. but it means get real. It will not last forever. It will not have it will not match your expectation. It really will not match your expectation. You ever had like this ideal situation come up and you thought for sure this was going to be it for something? You were so sure, absolutely positive this was it. And where is it now? Anybody not had that experience? And we have it over and over and over and over and over. And we keep trying. That's the sad part about our ignorance, right? We just keep trying. When we relax the expectation, life is a lot easier to live. And it's very interesting. Our teacher is particularly good at pulling the rug out from under us, often as training, to keep us on our toes. And the tighter we hold, the more suffering we have. True? True, 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 true. Yeah, so that's the first one. There's no security, no stability in all of cyclic existence. And that's really important to meditate on. My personal belief is that it's a real relief to meditate on this and start to get it. The disappointment lessens tremendously, and disappointment is my least favorite experience. I hate it. Oh, I hate it. The second one is that with the mindset we have, propelled by ignorance, we are never satisfied with what we do have. Like never. We always something new, something better, something shiny, something to entertain us. Never satisfied. Never satisfied. Even eating lunch, the first bite is delicious. By the second bite, it's like, needs more salt. Third bite, oh, now it's cold. Right? Everything. Never satisfied. The mind that is constantly craving new and better and new and better and new and better and new and better drives us through our whole lives, life after life after life. That is one of the disadvantages and big dukkha, big sufferings of samsara. And this is for all beings. This is. I wonder if the ants, they've had the first little bit of the sugar on your desk, and they're like, let's find some more. They're always going for more. The turkeys, never satisfied with one crust of bread. They want more. Where is it? Here come those red robes pecking at you. See if they have some more bread. Third one, we die. Not just once, not just twice. We die, and then we die, and then we die, and then we die, and then we're born. That comes with it. We die because we were born. We were born because we died. We're born, we die, we're born, we die, we're born, we die, we're born, we die. What happens in between may vary somewhat. And then we die. And then we're born. And then we die. And then we're born. I mean, how long do we have to be on this cycle to think, it would be good to get off of this wheel. It would be really good to get off of this wheel. And, no matter how we prepare for death, and very few people do, but even those who I think do, we never know how it's going to be. We don't know what our death is going to be like. We can't predict it. We can't control anything. Nor do we know when. And we have no idea how. So we can accept this as part of the meditation that we do here. We can accept it. But is this a disadvantage of cyclic existence? Yes. 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 Then the fifth one, so the fourth one is then we take rebirth. It's not like we can take a break in between. Oh, I'm going to die and then go rest on a cloud somewhere because I really need a break. That last life was really hard. We don't have that option. You just keep going.
the continuity of consciousness keeps going. Who I will be next time? Who I was before? But that consciousness is going to keep going. The fifth one is that then we change status too. And that means, in the event of a single life, okay, things go up, we go down. You're born rich, you die in poverty. You're born in poverty, you die rich. You have a hotshot career. I think one of the biggest heartbreaks I watched of my mother is that she kind of came from nowhere. Just really smart, charming woman with a pretty bad deck of cards to begin with. She went hugely successful in her sales career, and then she didn't get the job that she wanted, and it was taken from her by her protege, and that crashed my mother. She absolutely crashed. She was never the same after that. She couldn't even do sales anymore. She had to retire. It was like, oh my God. It was so heartbreaking to watch. But up, down, that's what happens in a life. And if you're not prepared for it, it really can completely crash and just destroy people. People commit suicide over things like that, right? But what's also speaking to here is our rebirths go up and down like that. We go from, they say, we've been in every possible realm that could be, and we may have great fortune. We go into the heavenly realms. They last for a long time. That's really nice. We have all this pleasure at the end of that life, which is not pleasant. We go crashing down to who knows where. And that getting a human life, we get the teachings over and over, to have a precious human life is very, very difficult. You gotta work it. How we got this one? But we need to really treasure it, hold it preciously. And then the sixth one is that we undergo suffering alone, is the way it is. Nobody comes with us. We're doing this. We can make all kinds of networks. We create all kinds of things. We have karmic connections with probably everybody. As they say, everyone has been your child, everyone has been your mother. We've been through this over and over and over again. Still, we come in alone, we go out alone, and no one can actually experience our suffering directly. And yet we so crave that connection with others. So these are pretty major disadvantages of cyclic existence. Again, not taught to make us feel depressed and overwhelmed and, oh my God, there's no reason to live, there's no reason to go on, besides it's pointless to have that because if, even you to do yourself in, you're just going to be reborn anyway. But to get real about our situation. And I think I've said this before, I find this to be a tremendous relief. A tremendous relief. It's like, okay, all the stories about living happily ever after are just stories. All the stories about, gain the fame that you've been seeking your whole life, just stories. It's not going to satisfy. What satisfies? Our spiritual practice. There is real, genuine satisfaction. Short-lived too, because we don't have the realizations yet to maintain it. But you can get a little taste that, oh, there's an alternative. Yeah? Yeah. Of the 8 sufferings of human beings, I think one that, I won't go into them in detail, it repeats some of these, but there is the one that we often, once we get, we seek for things we never get. We chase after things that we never attain. Or we get them and we're disappointed after we get them. This too is a big suffering, and that's something to meditate a lot on in thinking about how we want to live our lives. How hard do we want to work for this career? Right? I really had this aspiration to be an actress big time. Oh, my. And I used to, when I was about 14, 12, I don't know what age you are, when you stand in front of a mirror and sing whole albums of Barbra Streisand in front of the mirror. But I did for hours and hours and hours on end. But there's one of the songs that was on her album, My Name is Barbara, about I want to be an actress, actresses play all night. And then this thing, this, years go by, and it's funny how black mascara streaks when the tears begin. Nail polish, rouge, and powder can't hold the heartache in. And as much as I sang that song over and over and over, because I wanted to grow up and be Barbra Streisand, there was always this little hint that success was built into that, and the pain of that success was built into that little 12-year-old, 14-year-old aspiration from singing that song. And I think often about looking at people like Prince, or people like, who's the singer that was found in the bathtub? Whitney Houston, she's the one. Whitney Houston had a voice that made angels cry. That woman could sing, and look what happened to her life. Like this aspiration for talent, this aspiration for fame, this aspiration for the breaks. And you look at a life of someone who was, I think, such a good-hearted person, really. That's the nature of samsara. And so to actually meditate on these keeps us, saves us from a life that is seeking something that will never happen. It cannot deliver. By its very nature, it cannot deliver for us. And so meditating on this over and over and over again helps us get really smart about how I want to live my life. You start to get a lot clearer. This is what I want. This is what I really want. When I come out of here, when this life ends, what will I look back on and be happy about what I've done? What will really have been of benefit to myself and others? And that's the question we'll ask. So those are things to think about when you're thinking about exploring monastic life. Everybody looks kind of bummed. Such it is. Such it is. It's so, my gosh, it's so liberating. I wanted to finish this by reading, if you haven't read this book, Choosing Simplicity, it's, I recommend it, maybe later on. And I want to say too, it's such a confession. In my life, I have read 2 books that made me so angry and upset, I threw them against the wall. I would read for a while and just throw it. One was And the Band Played On, which was the story of how the AIDS crisis was mishandled by the government and the number of people who died because of it. Okay, so that one, it was just outraged over and over and over and over. It was personal, so I had lost so many friends. But this book, too, I also threw against the wall. Not because, yes, I've purified, I continue to purify it, because I got so freaked out about holding precepts, holding it so tightly, it just terrified me. It was just freaked me out completely. So it may be too soon for you to read these. But I do want to say, I want to add that though, before we close. The thing about holding precepts is that they are designed to give us the ethical conduct basis, the foundation upon which we can work towards a precious human life, the foundation with which we can hold ethical conduct to be able to cultivate our concentration. Because it's on that basis, really, of solid ethics that we can really develop concentration. And on that basis, we can really develop wisdom. So ethical conduct being the very foundation, that's why when you first take refuge, you get the 5 lay precepts, right? It's a fantastic start. It's a fantastic way to live. And then you take on more and more and more, not as restrictions, which is the way I was reading this, but as you get closer and closer to understanding what monastic life means, and feeling ready to take them, then your confidence in ethical conduct as the foundation of non-harm, whose foundation is non-harming, as the foundation to achieve that goal that you're going for, liberation or awakening, then they're not scary anymore. And here's what Venerable Master Wu Yin says. She said, early this morning I went to, she was in Bodh Gaya giving a teaching for this book. She's a Vinaya master, a Taiwanese Vinaya master who will be here this fall. She is the person that Venerable Chödrön first brought together to teach the Vinaya to Western nuns in Bodh Gaya. Venerable Sepul was there as a layperson supporting the course in 1996. So we owe very much to Venerable Master Wu Yin for the fact that we're all sitting here right now. And she has worked, because the Bhikshuni lineage has survived in the Chinese tradition for a couple of thousand years and nowhere else. That's really the source of how we are getting trained. The nuns here are getting trained. And the monks are kindly going in the Chinese tradition so that we can all do it together. Anyway, so this is what she said. She was at Bodh Gaya when she was giving this teaching. She said, early this morning, I went to the Enlightenment Stupa and prayed for peace to fill our world and for Dharma to be sustained. I prayed that the Buddha's wisdom and light go with each bhikshu and bhikshuni, shramanera, shramanarika, and layperson, so that you will bring the Buddha Dharma to each corner of the world you visit, sharing it in skillful ways according to the dispositions of the people and culture of the place. Each of you preserves the Dharma within yourself. And by practicing the Buddha's teachings and observing the Vinaya, you will tame your body, speech, and mind. For that reason, take care of yourselves, not out of selfishness, but in order to cultivate your wisdom, accumulate positive potential, and benefit all beings. So that's her message for all of us, lay, ordained. Those are the only 2 options, I think. Yeah, to carry the Buddha Dharma within us, wherever we go, however we go. So may we be of benefit to all beings. So take a moment. We have a minute to do a little digestion meditation. Think about, anything particularly that came to your mind that you want to preserve and hang on to. And we can practice sharing this with living beings, imagining whatever virtue might have generated in our own mind and heart as a light at our heart, radiating out in every direction for the benefit of every being. So you can imagine as far as you can, people you care about, people you don't like, people you don't know, places in the world that you are concerned about. Sharing this merit in your mind, practicing generosity, giving it away. And let's dedicate
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
I do really recommend the monastic section of this book. In fact, I recommend this book. It's fantastic. Buddhism, One Teacher, Many Traditions. It's the kind of the prequel to the series that Venerable Children wrote with His Holiness. This was their first book. And it looks at all the Buddhist traditions, looks at the commonalities, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. But the monastic section in here is very inspiring.